Okay guys, sorry I'm outside. It's a nice day, but I really want to get these videos done. So you might hear a little background noise, but that's just the outdoors. But welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. This is part 3 of my life after my mom was killed in the Oklahoma City bombing. So my part 2 kind of got railroaded by my emotions. I guess I still feel some type of way about the things that happened back then, but I'm over it. I went to the gym, took a shower, and now I'm back to do what I was supposed to finish, which was to talk about the military. I'm not going to rehash anything else about 2. It was what it was. So now we're going to talk about my life after high school. So Jaden, my first baby, she was born right after high school. I was actually pregnant my senior year. And I graduated in May and I had her at the end of July. I attempted to go to college, UCO, and start my nursing stuff. Well, obviously my general ed courses, but that's what I was trying to go to school for, was nursing. And it was just too much. Jaden was born July 26th, but she was a preemie. She was in ICU for 2 weeks. So if you do the math, going into August, which is when college starts, I don't know why I tried it. Having no guidance, I tried it. And it did not work out. I was just too tired, couldn't get her on a good schedule. And so I wound up dropping out of college and just try to get my life together. Her and her dad and I were actually still dating. We're probably on and off. We were on and off a lot. But he went away to college, and his first college, he had an incident that happened, and he wound up not being at that college anymore. He came back and was like, well, I'm going to the University of North Texas. And at that point, I had told him, I'm moving to the sun because I'm a little chilly. I'm always cold still, guys. So I had wound up telling him, well, why don't we just go our separate ways? And, if when he got done with school, if I'm still available, still around, we can go back to dating. But obviously, I couldn't go far. I had his child. Well, he decided to pop the question and was like, well, why don't you get married and you can come with me? Ladies, I'm here to tell you, just because a man puts a ring on it, ties you down, and you have his baby, does not make him be faithful or do what he has to do. That was very short-lived. Our divorce was shorter. We dated longer than we were actually married, put it that way. But long story short, we moved to Texas with him. He actually was like, hey, you guys are a distraction. I can't do this, do that, whatever. So I packed our baby up and I went back to Oklahoma, was sleeping on my aunt's couch. One day found out he was having an affair, cheating. And so I decided I had to find something for myself and my daughter to do. Because in my mind, I was waiting for him to get out of school because he was the number 3 linebacker in the state of Oklahoma. He was going to still have a full ride scholarship to OU. Like, he had potential. He just had to do a junior college first. He had potential to make it to the NFL. So I was like, well, go ahead, do what you have to do. And then when you get done, I'll go get my nursing degree. Well, since now you're playing around, that's no longer an option for me. I had to find a way to survive for me and my baby. So I wound up calling a cousin of mine that is in the military. And I said, hey, I need to get in the military. He gave me a number to a recruiter. I started meeting with recruiters. The recruiter told me I could not get a divorce. She says, if you get a divorce, you won't be able to take your child with you. You're going to have to sign her, give rights over or whatever. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I stayed married and went to basic training. Her grandmother kept her, his mom, for me while I was there. When I got back from tech school and all of that, her dad was no longer in school. Whatever reason, I still to this day don't think I asked or even cared at that point. And me being like most of us females, I took him back. And so my first duty station was in Washington. He came with me to Washington State with our baby. Again, that does not make a man do right, ladies. Like, I'm here to tell you, like, if they don't want to do right, they're not going to. No matter what you dangle in front of them or have in front, it does not work. Well, to make my story even more interesting, now that I'm there, I'm pregnant with our second baby. So Jasmine comes along. And that still didn't keep him. He wound up going back to Oklahoma. So now I'm a single mom of 2. So I'm going to rewind a little bit. So while I was in Washington, he was going back and forth to Oklahoma. He wasn't happy there. We were getting arguments. Well, you don't need me here. All the type of stuff. So I was literally pregnant with our 4-year-old she was 3 at the time. With our 3-year-old by myself in Washington, a state where I have no family. And I'm taking care of her by myself. Like, now the Lord has made it to where I can now support me and my child, which is what I needed to do. So I wasn't hurting on that aspect. So the one day their dad was gone. I was just like, I'm over it. Like, what is going on? I just want to go. I want to go home. I'm tired of being out here by myself. I don't know anyone. Well, I had a supervisor. She's a tad bit older than me. And she came down and asked me, she said, hey, your work performance is a little off. What's going on? And I told her, I was like, I'm just depressed. I want to go home. I'm here by myself. I have this baby coming and I have no help. And she looked at me and she says, okay. She said, well, here's the paperwork. You're able to get out on a hardship right now because you're pregnant. She said, but what are you going to do when you go home? She said, you have a new baby that's getting ready to come. You still have your 3-year-old. Well, it's getting ready to be 4. Now you have a car note. What are you going back home to? How are you going to survive? That lady helped mold my life. She was heaven sent because she made me reevaluate everything. And I did. I stayed in the military. I did 16 years in the military. I got out during COVID because I was in the reserve and it was just a lot going on. It was best that I got out at the moment. But I did 16 years in the military, so my military career helped me support my family a lot. And so I thank her for that. That lady later became Jasmine, my second baby's godmother. So my support system began in Washington with Jasmine's godmom, who was my supervisor at the time. People swore she was my mom because we did resemble. Sweet lady, I love her to death, still talk to her, not as much as I need to, but she's always been a support, and that's what she told me, I'll be your support system, and she was that for me, and I appreciate her. Even up until last year, I needed help when I made my big move here to Texas. She helped me, and I'll get into that story later. That's going to be my last chapter, guys. So I stayed in Washington with my children, deployed, did all these things. So after almost said her name. After Jasmine's godmom helped me get a foundation of support. She would watch the kids if I had to study for my military exams to give me that break. She helped me the first year by providing Christmas money for Christmas gifts. She was really like a mom that I did not have. So she eventually retired, and of course I was still in Washington. It was such a sad moment. But she always stayed in touch. Like I said, I still have her number to this day. And her and Jasmine do speak. They're in contact also. So what happened after that? Oh, so their dad, back to that, he's still in and out of my home. And I say my home because I was providing it through the military for me and my child at that point. And he would come and then he would leave, and I was allowing it. Like, I'm not going to take not take my accountability. Like, I have made stupid decisions behind men, which is why this is my channel, and I'm going to try to help guide women to be stronger mentally, because I was not that at all. Because there's no reason her dad should have been back and forth, and I'm providing everything for so long. And this is not to badmouth him, and if he gets offended if he sees this video, the truth is the truth, point blank period. So I believe, if I'm being completely honest, I think at some point there was infidelity on my part in Washington also. So I will put that out there so people won't come in here talking about, well, you didn't say what you did. No, if I did anything, there was a guy that I did meet right after Jasmine was born. And mind you, their dad had left. And when their dad came back, me and the guy were still talking. So I guess that's my cheating, but whatever. Nonetheless, when their dad came, Jasmine's first birthday was coming up, and my first deployment was coming up on her birthday. Right? Ironic, right? So as her birthday was coming around, we flew his sister to Washington so that she can help him watch the girls. I'm deploying for 4 months. Your sister's gonna come here. Y'all are gonna live on base. All you gotta do is get the girls to daycare and do whatever. And it wasn't even 3 weeks. His sister was flown out of Washington with our children in Oklahoma. He stayed in Washington. He did what he did. I'm not even gonna like go down that rabbit hole. All I'm gonna say is infidelity took place. There was another baby that was created. I filed for divorce when I came back from my deployment, and I just moved on from there. I think I still had like another 2 years in the military. I deployed a couple more times. One time he took the girls, one time my cousin took the girls, but it was just too much deploying, and it was starting to affect Jaden a lot. So I got off active duty and I became a reservist. After I became reserve, that's when my third daughter came along, Jahara. Her dad and I, it was a mess, and that was the child that I actually had to fight for custody for. He was a lot, but I finally have her now, and she's in good spirits, and I'm just gonna leave that story like that. But there is the Jahara. She's my third baby. But I continued to do the military, continued to move on. After Jahara's dad, I had a guy that reached back out to me that wanted to date me when I was active duty, and I, moved away. I came back to Oklahoma when I went reserve, and we linked back up, talked for a while, and he wanted to get married. This goes to my second marriage. Me thinking he waited for me, he really liked me then. I kind of like didn't even give in. Oh, he must really like me. He's really doing this, doing that. Not saying he didn't. I just don't think I was ready to be married, even though in my mind I said it's gonna be my last marriage. I'm gonna do what I gotta do to make this work. We're just gonna have to work things out. I'm a little bit more mature now. I know what it takes. It takes two to be in that state of mind. I'm not gonna speak ill on this person because it's not about that. This is just my story, but it's 12 years of my story. I stayed married 12 years to this person, which is my last two children's father, Naomi and Caleb. Caleb and Naomi. That's age order. Caleb's older. And just recently in 2024 we divorced. It was finalized anyways. Well, not recently, actually, at the end of the year. So it was the beginning of 2024. So we've been divorced for almost a year now, and we co-parent very well, which is why I'm not going to even go down the rabbit hole of who did this. There was a lot of mess that went behind that marriage. But the one thing that I want to talk about that's going to be a lot of the topic that I'm able to talk to women about, that I feel like I have wisdom on now that I've grown and I've gotten older, is the fact that number one, we women, we hold on when we know that it's not gonna work. You can only put so much effort in, and from my experience, the more when you know that marriage has been tainted, messed up, some is people say work it out, but if there's no remorse by that other person, and there's no closing of a chapter, and that chapter just kind of stays open, you're just prolonging the inevitable. And that's something that I learned, and I have friends who I watch do the same thing, like, and it does more harm than good. Like, I really feel like if I would have got out of my marriage when I first knew this is not healthy for me, it wouldn't have been as messy as it was. First of all, we wouldn't have had as much baggage together, meaning like property, and I would have invested 12 years of my life. All of my 30s are gone. Like, I'm like, man, I can't get those back. Now I'm in my 40s. Like, I wasted a lot of time. And it's hard for me to say wasted time because I have 2 babies out of it. Like, they're 11 and 12 right now. So it's just like I don't have wasted. And one thing out of that marriage that I'm also going to speak on a lot, because now it's a foundation of my life, is how the Catholic faith, if you guys remember, I talked about being grounded in Catholicism. That is now no longer my faith. My first marriage, which was with my first kid's grandma, I started going to church with them when I was in high school. I stopped going to the Catholic Church. Then in my second marriage, I started talking with his mother and all of that, and I was still doing the non-denominational. She was more Pentecostal, but I kind of didn't all the way feed into the Pentecostal thing. Non-denominational is more of what I can resonate with. They read the Bible, not just certain chapters of the Bible, the whole Bible. They believe in you can go straight to Jesus. To the Lord yourself. You don't have to go through priests. Like, that just wasn't my cup of tea, even though I was raised in it. So the faith that I am now is because I wholeheartedly believe God took my mother to make who I am, to bring me closer to Him in a different light. My whole family is still Catholic. All my cousins, I'm not bashing Catholics at all, guys, I promise. But all of my cousins, everyone, because their parents are still alive, they're still following that faith. They're still doing that. I was introduced, because my mom was not here, I really believe I would have probably never met my husband, the first girl's dad, because when my mom was here, I would have been sheltered from more. My stepdad, like I said, he tried his best. I don't think he really knew. I was running the streets. I was with, how do I want to say it? I was hanging out with the public school kids. I wasn't stuck in, like, I was doing different things than most of my school friends were doing. So, like, let's just keep it real 1 second, y'all. The Bishop McGinnis, you're going to get the kids that drink and party and, let's just be honest, do drugs, right? I didn't hang out with those kids. I hung out with the kids that probably, the public school kids, was the ones selling the drugs in the gangs. Like, there's a different dynamic depending on the type of school you go to. And that's no shade to any other one. I'm not picking a side. One of my daughters is homeschooled right now, so I don't even care at that point. But that's what it was. Like, I didn't do the drugs. I did drink in high school, but that was about as far as I went. But I didn't even hang out with my Catholic friends. So I got introduced to different things that I don't think I would have got introduced to if my mom had still been alive. So I feel like in building my life story, God knew what He had for me. And when He did that, He placed the particular pieces into my life. So now I'm non-denominational. I don't think anyone else in my family, at least on my mom's side, and that's all I really know, is non-denominational. So again, I'm the oddball. And I speaking in tongues with all of that. Like, I know how to pray, and I get prayers through, baby. I can tell you that. Like, your girl can pray and get a prayer answered. So it's really brought me into a different light with my spiritual life. I got rebaptized with my new husband's mom while I was pregnant with my son, actually. Um, because the Catholics, they baptize when you're a baby. Well, how do you say out your mouth, yeah, I'm committed to the Lord Jesus Christ as a baby? You don't. So I really believe it's important to profess it out of your own mouth. So as an adult, I profess that Jesus is my Lord and Savior. So when I named this series The Story of My Life, as He Takes One to Make One, I believe my mom's death shifted my faith in Jesus Christ and what I'm being exposed to and being taught in churches to this day. And I can say I owe a lot of that to my ex-husbands. We stayed in the church for the most part together. Our kids still go to church. So that's, I kind of wanted to make clear what the saying behind my videos really meant. It's me. He took one. He took my mom for whatever reason, why it was her time, and it made me who I am today. So I think I'm going to end my military part there. I feel like I'm going in circles, but that's really the gist of it. Like, sorry, the wind. I went through a lot right after high school in the military. I had people in and out my life. My military life, I learned that family doesn't always have to be blood. I mean, and I kind of learned that in the beginning when my stepdad seemed to have cared more about our well-being than, So something else I would say to people, if you can create a family outside of blood and they're really down for you and y'all are down for each other, don't bash it because you don't share the same bloodline. I don't think that's what family is. So that's the end for part 3. I'll be back for part 4. And I think I have 5 parts. I'm trying to make them a little shorter for you guys on YouTube so you don't have to listen to me ramble. But again, like the video, comment, and subscribe if you can. And I'll see you again on the next one.